Hey guys, welcome to the Lawn and Garden Month on Echo Means Business. This month on EMB, we are doing a series of free webinars with leading brands and industry experts. If you don't know who I am Scott from Landscapes by Acme, and I am a UAG member, as well as Jonathan Fernandez here from Fernandez, and he is Hero Services, his company is, who's also joining us with Armin Singh and from DynaScape. So, Jonathan, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Fernandez, owner of Hero Services, Landscaping and Pressure Washing. And today we're going to talk about how to retain talent in the time of the Great Resignation with Aman from DynaScape. So I'll let him take it away.
Thank you, everybody, for joining and tuning in. I know we're having some technical challenges, but hopefully we'll work around them and you can hear me okay. And hello and welcome to the webinar. My name is Aman Singh. I'm the Senior Director at DynaScape. We're a leader in landscape design and business management software solutions. The topic we're talking about today is very, very close to my heart. As I believe employees are the fuel on which an organization runs. Today, we're going to talk about the Great Resignation, a term that has become quite synonymous with the slew of unemployment claims in the US and around the globe. We're going to talk about the steps we could take as employers to give our employees the best possible experience, that the question of resignation doesn't even arise. We will also layer in things you as employers can do to attract new talent. Can we give them what they need to ensure job satisfaction and loyalty? Let's dig in. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to quantify the problem and give you guys some tangibles that you can take back and apply to your respective organizations. As I said, the agenda for today is how do we tackle the Great Resignation that we face as organizations across the globe? No matter the industry, in fact. After 2 years being lost to COVID-19, the after effects are continuing to be felt in terms of labor shortages and unemployment claims. In fact, employees are looking for greener pastures and employees are left scrambling. We're going to talk about what the real issue is. We'll quantify the problem, and then discuss some of the proven measures to help mitigate the likelihood of the problem affecting you. These aren't be-all, end-all tactics, but I can say that with a lot of conviction that if you apply these, you will not only retain talent, but will also have happy employees that will rave about their workplace in the end. We'll speak about employee engagement, to diversity, to how do we leverage trade associations to ensure you have your employees' best interests in mind, which in return fosters loyalty. All right, before we dig into the tangibles, I just wanted to give a little bit of a brief idea of who we are, what DynaScape is all about. If folks don't know about us, we are a leader in landscape design and business management solutions, wherein we provide landscape-specific CAD-based 2D drafting platform and a SaaS business management solution, which is called M360, to help with estimating. That is our Managed 360 platform that helps with estimating job tracking and costing, and ultimately ascertaining job profitability, crew tracking, and much more. We're taught in over 100 schools across North America. We have over 10,000 users on our system. As you can see in the screenshot on the right-hand side, the black and white drawing is our landscape design platform, DynaScape Design. And the one that you can see on the top, it's a Managed 360 platform with a list of contacts and the UI that you see up there. we're as I mentioned, we are pretty much into these 100+ schools. We take pride in the fact that we are helping the community and helping these universities grow landscape architects and grow landscape designers. We are highly engaged in the landscape community through participation in trade shows, events that are typically organized by NALP and CNLA in Canada, and we've got strong connections with provincial and state chapters. We're fully committed to the industry, and we're a fully owned subsidiary of Evercommerce, which is a large field service conglomerate of companies. We're a public organization. Evercommerce is a public organization listed on NASDAQ under the symbol EVCM, and we're valued over $5 billion. So that's just a little bit about us. So let's dig in. Let's talk about what the problem is and what is this Great Resignation that everyone keeps talking about. Well, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, almost 4 million Americans quit their job in July 2021 alone. That itself is a huge warning sign, with COVID's after effects still affecting our businesses to this day. Just to layer on top of this, millions of jobs stay open as employers struggle to fill their roles in adequate time. This indeed has created a huge demand and supply issue across industries. Although if you talk about the landscaping space, we're seeing this issue translate into more than, as you guys can see on top, more than 300,000 landscaping jobs staying vacant. This is by NALP. This statistic is by NALP, which indeed, that translates into millions of dollars laying on the table. This is a very large number of this has a very large number of company owners really concerned about this shortage inhibiting their growth. And rightly so. I mean, I would be worried and concerned too if I was part of the landscaping owner community. The Harvard Business Review article that I've listed up there that states that resignation was mostly amongst early to mid-career employees in fields that had high demand due to the pandemic. So that fits right into our industry. It fits it so perfectly. No wonder people had to wait months to get their backyards all pepped up. So if you're not thinking about being affected, then think again and ensure you're prepping yourself. So as we start to speak about the problem, as you guys can see, the employees are at the core of it. The only way we can counter this problem is by retaining our existing employees. Hiring will not become a challenge if existing employees are happy and others wants to join them for that same reason. So here we're going to talk about some of the measures that employers should start to think about before this actually hits home. First off is employee engagement. I guess before we even start discussing whether your employees are engaged or not, you should measure if indeed there is something that's affecting your organization. Are the employees looking elsewhere? Are they looking outside? Like we here at DynaScape and Evercommerce, we do Nps Scores, which is essentially a Net Promoter Score survey, which is a great way to find out how engaged your employees are. So as you can see at the bottom right, there's a survey that LinkedIn did. In that survey, they state that 94% of the employees that were surveyed stated that they would stay longer if companies invested in them to help learn. So that you can imagine, that is a big chunk of employees looking for something that, in my mind, should be imperative. Your employee engagement scores will also depend on multiple factors, as I've listed down there. And most of these will negatively impact your score. We'll touch on most of these in our presentation. First off is lack of training and development. You can never retain an employee if you do not have a documented training program for your new hires, as well as existing employees. You need to have great communication between your management and staff members. This is where I think clear articulation of business objectives is imperative to business success. This is where I think management should take it upon themselves to be very clear and articulate about what the expectations are from them. This ties into the next piece, unclear job descriptions. I think this is, or lack thereof. I think there's tons of jobs out there where do not have any job descriptions. This is a common occurrence, which absolutely leads to frustration across employees. And inadequate staffing levels. This is one of the things that I think we as landscape owners and landscape business owners should think about. So we cannot profit by not hiring adequate levels of staff to take on the workload. We'll touch on a little bit on internship and how interns can help really spread out that workload, but we'll touch on that in the further slides. And lack of recognition. So we hear this a lot as part of, you need to be uplifting your culture. And part of uplifting your culture is recognizing employees for the work that they do. And it does not mean just recognizing and paying them more salary. There's a lot of other perks that come into play, which we'll chat about as well in the upcoming slides. So the next slides are going to be talking about the tangibles and how to really develop and invest in your employees' skill sets. Think about employees as plants, right? You need to nurture them in order to ensure that they give you their best outcome. So constant workplace training is an important way to show that to your employees that you actually care, right? I would look into your existing training processes and understand what is needed to optimize, not just for your new hires, but also for your existing ones. This is why I think it's very important for crew leaders to take on junior workers under their wing. And if there is an established process in place, then these workers should take them under their wings and have them shadow. So that way they're learning from the best. I cannot overstate the importance of shadowing. People, especially in our industry, learn from doing the work with their hands, and that is the best way to learn. So make sure that you have the new employees being shadowed by some of the existing ones, someone that you can trust and you believe that they have a good training under their belt, right? For designers and architects, I think you should think about ensuring that they have a strong connection with the associations. This will not only help them stay abreast with the latest industry news, but also look at ways to continuously improve your business. These associations are a great way to learn about what's happening in the industry. I'll touch a little bit on this further in my presentation as well, but I did want to highlight the fact it's important that you let your designers and architects involve with these associations, whether it's chapter associations, whether it's national associations at the national level. Now, networking events, they're a great forum to enhance your knowledge and skill set. And this is what most employees need. They are looking for you to invest in them, right? And part of it is you sending them to these networking events. This is where they will go in there. They will learn about some of the tricks and tactics that other businesses are using to bring in and into your workplace and enhance those workplace efficiencies at your work. So that is very important. I would highly recommend that you send your whether you're designers or architects to these networking events. And as I previously mentioned, associations do these networking events quite like around the North American area. So make sure that you ensure that your employees are actually attending some of those. Let's talk about workplace efficiencies. Workplace efficiencies, in my mind, are a sure shot way to employee satisfaction and ultimately retention. I would challenge you, the audience, to look at your internal processes and take the inventory of all of the areas that you want to improve. First and foremost, I will look at the process. If you have processes at all, you cannot expect an employee to be successful if you do not have documented processes. I will challenge anybody out there. If you do not have processes, you cannot make your employees successful. And on top of it, make sure that you have the right tools and systems in place to ensure quicker ramp up, because this is one of the biggest frustrations of employees, and especially for employers as well, that employees take very long to ramp up. Tools can help shorten that ramp up period pretty significantly. Not to pitch anything here, but DynaScape as a solution set can provide structure to your design and construction processes. we can bring in some best practices to really enhance your business results. As I said, without pitching too much, we have instances where employee satisfaction has gone significantly up due to the fact that the organizations have standardized tool sets for employees to use in their day-to-day work. And ultimately create best practices. Use your existing processes and high productivity employees to create best practices and bring in those operational efficiencies into your business. This will not only help boost profitability in your business, but also make employees feel like they're part of something big because they're helping define the course of your organization. So can you see like the overall loop? It ends up like, in fact, helps employees feel like they're part of something huge and they would want to be invested in your organization. All right, I don't think any conversation about employee retention would be complete without talking about money. Employee retention, as you got, please, I would highly ask my people listening, please pay your employees fairly, please. Employers should be offering competitive pay by looking at your state and local salary bands. Go to your local and state government websites to ensure that you're paying by the book, and maybe slightly higher to be able to attract good talent. If you look at this chart, salaryfinance.com lists that there's more stuff than just salary that attracts people. So if you can look at health insurance, has 58% weight. And then we've got discounts and gym membership who actually take 30 and 60% weight. So from health benefits to discounts to employee assistance programs, your employees actually care about a lot more things than salary. All of the above, in my mind, are paramount to make sure that employees don't get poached by other companies. Right. This is an interesting topic that I want to chat about. I want you to expand your hiring practices by hiring interns. Try it out. Internships program is a great way to hire upcoming talent early on. In fact, we at DynaScape have a program where we hire 1 or 2 interns every year. So if you have all of the other ingredients like processes, training programs, tools, etc., setting up an internship program is a step in the right direction. What you'll be able to do, you'll be able to discover new talent that you would not normally hire at a higher rate. You will reduce the overall workload by distributing some of the mundane work to the interns. As I mentioned, DynaScape uses interns where we've got some high value work that we end up giving to existing employees, and interns will take some of the mundane work to shave some of the workload off of our existing employees. Give your long-term employees the ability to become mentors. I think that goes to say that like this is one way that employees feel connected to your organization. I think this is a win-win situation for interns looking to engage in full-time work, and your employees, existing employees who are looking to showcase their managerial abilities. So it's a win-win situation for both. And ultimately, you hear fresh perspectives and give back to the community. In my opinion, internships are a great way to hire the right talent, nurture them, and then wow them they want to retain that position. If you look at this, one of the statistics down below, 80% of the internships in most larger companies turn into entry-level positions. There is no reason why this would not translate into our industry. So what I would say is use this as an opportunity to reassess your hiring needs and accommodate at least 1 or 2 interns, depending on the size of your organization, into your business. All right, coming into regional association, my audience now is landscape business owners. You need to attend industry events, mingle with your landscaping community to talk about best practice and establish a standard in our industry. I think industry events are a great way to meet prospective employees as well. But career fairs, there's a lot of career fairs that are organized by the NALP. In fact, there's a competition that is held by the NCLC, which is a National Collegiate Landscape Competition, which is organized by the NALP every year, where we as DynaScape, we sponsor this competition, whereas lots of landscape designers and architect students participate to win a scholarship. So there's lots of career fairs that happen across the country. This is where I think linking up with regional associations to see where those competitions are happening, where those career fairs are happening, are critical to make sure some of your employees are participating. As I mentioned, there are lots of regional competition that connections with associations can help uncover. I'm pretty sure there's this slide deck will be shared with everybody, but there's a link in here as well that we can share with the Landscape National Collegiate Institute's competition link. Last but not the least, and this is the most important just from my perspective, is one topic that completely overarches the discussion about expanding our hiring practices to include diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging in your existing and new employees. Diversify your hiring practices, guys, to include people from different cultures so everybody feels included and there's a sense of belonging within our corporate ambience. A lot of organizations, including our parent company, EverCommerce, are thinking about DEIB very seriously and have roles assigned specifically to ensure hiring practices include all of the above. Depending on the size of your company, you should have a dedicated person, in my opinion, in your human resource group that either does DEIB training or has been proactively looking into implementing these practices. Ultimately, guys, it's about building the best team that would do the best job, regardless of their ethnicity, color, sex, or culture. That's all I wanted to share today. In closing, I would like to say that employees are the driving engine of your organization. Make sure you're nurturing them to get the best out of your team, and of course, mitigating those resignation challenges. For nurturing piece, you need to show them that you care, and then you can come in various forms as highlighted above. This is the content I had prepared to share today. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly on the email listed below. You can phone us as well. I think it would be remiss if we didn't give you a promotion for anyone who's interested in subscribing to DynaScape Design or Manage 360. For anyone interested, you'll receive a 3 months off a 12 months contract, 12 months subscription. That is approximately 20% in savings. Again, you can contact the number or email that's listed up there. I want to thank everyone for their time and wish them all the best in applying some of these tactics. And one thing I will say, despite these tactics, no matter the size of your organization, whether it's a large organization or a small organization, you can all play a part and do certain tips that I've given here, act on them to get the right results. So I want to thank everyone for their time and wish everyone good luck and best results for you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to follow EMB on Instagram and Facebook. Stay tuned for the next session, starting within a few minutes, about Light the Night with outdoor lighting with Hunter Industries. See you at the next one. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Alman, for attending. Thank you, DynaScape. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. This is Scott from EchoMeansBusiness.com. I am here with Ryan from Hunter Industries. We are going to talk about outdoor lighting and how to light up the night. So Ryan, like to introduce yourself.
Sure, happy to do so. So again, hi everybody. My name is Ryan Williams. They call me the Director of Marketing for FXLuminaire. FXLuminaire is the primary lighting arm of Hunter Industries, who historically has specialized in irrigation equipment and other things associated with not equipment but irrigation products in general. So they've moved into the lighting landscape in a sense over a decade ago, and so I've been with FX and Hunter for over a decade.
Nice. That's great. So what kind of, what do you got for us today? I mean, this is a great series going on this month, and we want to know what kind of things we can do to light up the night out there with some outdoor lighting. I know you guys do all kinds of other stuff also. So do you have...
Absolutely. Yeah. So my ultimate goal here is to share some insights in terms of thinking differently, right? We all know the classic, take a light, put a stake in the ground and give it some power and you're good to go. And while light looks better than dark in almost all cases, I'd like to kind of review with everybody and go over some helpful tips and tricks in terms of making it better, thinking differently and moving in a different direction more than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what you got. I'd love to have the tips that you got from all kinds of stuff to, light up the night. And, lighting is a big part of any landscape. So let's see what you got here.
All right. Awesome to happy to help out. I just want to make sure, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
That's live and ready to go. Okay, awesome. So just I guess a quick introduction. I've done quite a few of these webinars, and when we bring up the topic of lighting, I usually have one of these 4 reactions when we start this webinar. I really hope we don't have any ones or twos in this call today, but my goal is really to get you from a 2 if you are there to a 3, or better yet, a 3 to a 4. Because really I would describe myself as that 4. As I just said, I've spent over a decade at FXLuminaire with product development and marketing and even engineering and helping contractors step up their game in terms of their landscape and architectural lighting opportunities. So I've got several certifications in the lighting world. And like I said, my true passion is really building businesses and more importantly, building products that people love to use, want to use, and also help me to make the products even better. If there are any cougars in the room or in this virtual room here, I did spend quite a few years over in Utah at Brigham Young University. But going back to our primary purpose here, our primary purpose is looking at in these 3 categories here. I see 3 trees, and from a standpoint of what I see the same old thing. That's because we tend to put our lighting projects on autopilot. And yes, it's a tree. We have an uplight, we stick it in the tree, and we're good to go, and we move on to the next job. And by the end of this session here, I really hope you all think a little bit differently about how we're approaching our lighting jobs, and hopefully how we are making them different and better every single time. So what we're going to talk about, really 5 things. We're going to talk about defaulting to downlighting, moving upstairs, changing the quantity, thinking differently. That's kind of the mantra throughout this entire webinar, as well as accessorizing. And we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But before we get into that, there is a very important caveat. And that important caveat is number 1, we always need to focus on the needs of the homeowner. No matter how beautiful the lighting project looks, no matter which fixtures we use or style or effects that we're creating, if we don't light that one step or that one piece of art or that favorite tree of the homeowner, then we really didn't do our job. Okay, so that is the most important caveat, is we always need to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the homeowner. And secondly, we always need to remember that we are meeting the needs of the specific space. That's making it a safe place to be and really focusing on those core accent, task, and general overhead lighting opportunities. So So with that, let's move into downlighting. And I recommend that we start with downlighting, not with uplighting. Most fixtures, if you look at landscape lighting fixtures, they are always on the ground, either directional uplights, I call them, or classic path lights. But I'd like us to think differently today and to start with downlighting. And the reason I say start with downlighting is because really downlighting is the most natural form of lighting. We're used to moonlighting at night. We're used to the sun lighting from the top down during the day. And no matter what, that's what our eyes are used to seeing, and that's what we're with that. And that's what we are most comfortable with, whether we realize it or not. So there are really three different categories of downlights. So we have directional downlights, as you can see here on the left, where you can aim and put it in a specific direction. We have pendants that are designed to hang. We often call them hanging pendants, and really surface mounted downlights as well, whether you call them coach lights, sconce lights, or other various categories. Those are the three that we're talking about today. And from a downlighting perspective, I've got an example here for directional downlights. So this house right here, you can see, I believe it's in the Midwest, Kansas City, if I remember right. And this project is lit just by downlighting. You can see a handful of the little white marks here. I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but you've got a couple spots here where the fixtures are actually mounted to the top of the fascia or the front of the fascia and lighting down. We don't have anything in the upward direction at all. And as you can see, this is a very nice, soft, and natural look in terms of lighting this project. With what I see is a handful of things. Number one, I see that you see a lot of light down on the ground here. It has a very natural look and feel. And what I like more than anything else is you're going to see in another picture when we contrast this, you're going to see the fact that this house is grounded. We see the house, it's touching the ground, it's attached to the ground. That makes us feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so it does ground the house for sure. You do have to watch out for glare in general. This, because of the angle in which we took the picture, you don't see a lot of glare. But with any downlight opportunity, you do have to watch and be mindful of where people are so that you can avoid glare, those hot spots in your eyes. And lastly, you do have to be just cognizant of the fact that downlighting does cost more from a labor rate. So if you're charging, let's say $200-300 or so to install each light, from a ground mounted standpoint, you're going to want to increase that quite a bit for being up on the roof in a ladder. Okay, so let's contrast this house this Kansas City house on the left with an uplighting option on the right. Now, with this light, you can see we've got two uplights at the base. They are fairly close to the house, so we would call that grazing the house itself. And you can see the various scallops right there. It tends to be a little bit hot and intense. And we have a classic uplighting job here. And you'll notice let's talk about some comparisons here. Number one, when we talk about uplighting, we can see the soffits, the fascia boards, even the gutters, they are all highlighted and highlighted nicely. So especially if you have very light trim, uplighting does look quite nice because it does provide that opportunity to let those features be highlighted and accented. But on the flip side, you do not get that opportunity for the downlighting option. Number two, you can see the scallops down at the ground. I can see you do have this wave type of movement here installed here, whereas on the downlit house, you do not have that effect. It is more intense in the top and less intense on the bottom. And lastly, let's go back to that grounding conversation here, where you see I can see some reflectant light here on the driveway here. But if I were to go step back and go all the way to the curb, from there I really won't see any light on the ground itself. And so it does have it just create this effect of the house kind of floating. It's not really connected to the ground, whereas I do see that on the downlit house. So you do have different options from a downlighting perspective versus uplighting. And in many cases, you are more than welcome to do a little bit of both. Whether you want to time that differently and put them on different scenes where you're uplighting during the more popular parts of the evening, let's say from 6 to 9 o'clock. And then maybe after 9 o'clock, you want to turn on a little bit more of a natural look and feel from a downlighting effect. And thus case, you would turn on the downlights, or you have them both on at the same time with those various designs. But that is I think, a good solid comparison of directional downlights versus directional uplights and that grazing effect. Now, I did mention in the previous slide or two that, you know, glare is something that we do need to be aware of. And so if you ask IES, our predominant body in terms of lighting education, they will define glare really as either too much light or an excessive amount of contrast of light. And so with that, there are options to control glare, and you just need to be mindful of those, right? So one of them would be the what I call shroud, right? You've got a shorter shroud or cutoff versus a longer one. Obviously, in downlights, you do want to err on the side of long shrouds more than anything else. Now, there is some things that you need to be aware of. The longer the shroud gets, the more that you're cutting out on the amount of light coming out, and actually more tightening it up more than anything else. And so if you're tightening up the light, that means you're getting a solid and sharp circles, shall we say, on the ground or on the wall or whatever you're lighting. And so you do want to be mindful of there's a balance between how much glare control from a mechanical standpoint versus how high you are installing those fixtures. Now, you can, rather than having the angled shrouds, you can have the straight cutoffs. This is a straight and deep one where the glass lens is probably anywhere from 3 to 4 inches deep. That will really give you a lot of glare control from a 360-degree coverage standpoint. However, again, the more you're cutting off the sides of the light, we call it cutting off the field angle. In that case, you do need to make sure that you are installing it much higher up in order to let the light spread out and soften on the edges. And lastly, you can actually do a straight cutoff with the glass right on the edge. This is going to give you the most glare, but you will give you the widest field angle for the softer looks. So this is much nicer in terms of getting closer, maybe just on a single story fascia board. But again, you do have to worry about more glare. And so that's why you have different options, let's say like a hex baffle. Or even the ability in many fixtures, you can kind of recess the lamp a little bit farther and deeper into the fixture to give you the best of both worlds. So just be mindful when we're talking about downlights, whether it's directional or any others, you do want to control that glare. So I think I'm skipping slides here a little bit. So from a pendant standpoint, this is the second category of downlighting. Pendants are that most natural form of downlighting. These are typically hanging pendants. This one right here that you see on the screen has a little eye hook, and whether you're using zip ties or stainless steel cabling, which we offer, you have that opportunity to let them hang in natural areas and make it move and feel with the wind and the movement of the landscape or the architecture if it happens to be moving. But in most cases, pendants allow you to get light right up where it needs to be, and really does a fantastic job, especially in trees, of highlighting the inner branching structure, which I believe is the most beautiful part to light, or allowing just those lights to get into the interior space. So in some cases, pendants are designed to be hid, like you see this image here. You really can't see that in the tree at all. Others are a little bit more decorative and designed to be seen, but yet to be very effective at the same time. Here is a great example of when those shrouds or those glare cutoffs become really long. You can actually see quite a bit of a decent hot spot here down at the bottom, just because this tube is so long, almost like a rifle for light. And so you do have to be mindful of those various effects. So this is a very long version, but it happens to be perforated, versus something that's a little bit shorter, maybe 1.5 inches deep, that gives you a little bit more of that optimal glare control and light throw balance. Generally speaking, when it comes to these pendants, they do offer a significant amount of general overhead light. And if you want to save some money, pendants are the way to go, because you can light a lot from various heights just using a pendant. They tend to be a little bit fairly less expensive. You do have to watch how you're wiring it through the tree and making sure that you're planning for growth of the tree and not pulling on the wires and other things. So it takes a little bit of just practice in terms of how to do that the best. But but you will save a lot of money from a fixture standpoint if you just move to pendants for sure. Now, a lot of people either love them or hate them from a pendant standpoint because they do move with the trees and the wind. And if that makes some people feel a little bit creepy with the moving concept, then you do have to just be mindful of that. But most people love the shadows that pendants create on the ground. We talked about the decorative concept of that, and more importantly, you can significantly reduce your fixture count by using pendants and downlights in general. Lastly, we do have the surface mounted options. Surface mounted downlights they do have a fixed position, and you can fix them to any vertical surface or horizontal surface depending on where it's going and the fixture or luminaire type. Now these fixtures are designed to be visible and viewable. Now I say those two words, visible and viewable, and you might think that I'm talking about the same thing, but really I'm not, because I'm suggesting that visible is that the fixtures are visible, they are out in the open, and they become part of your architecture. But you also have to remember that light is often viewable. So you can see in the downlights here in this structure, and you can even see a close-up version of that, you can see that the lights are designed to be where you are. So you do have to, again, watch for your glare. Possibly use some hex baffles. That would have been better in this space, but it really reminds us that the fixture is visible and viewable. But more importantly, we do need to make sure that the lighting is very soft lighting to make it a more natural effect. Okay, and so you do want to err on the side of more fixtures with less light rather than less fixtures with more light when you are doing things like downlighting in a space, an architectural space like this, and especially when you're combining lighting groups. Let's say, for example, like in this case, we're providing general overhead lighting, but we're also adding task lighting since the lights are centered right over the bar area. So remember, from a downlight perspective, we've got directionals, pendants, and surface mounted. And you always need to remember, number one, hide that glare as much as you can. Number two, plan a few extra hours per fixture or just extra time for downlighting, just because it does take extra time to run the wires, secure them, and make them tied off and ready to go. And lastly, remember, err on the side of more fixtures and less light to give a softer and more comfortable look. So from that surface mounted, just to continue on this topic, we often get the question of, I did this beautiful landscape lighting job. I replaced all the fixtures, but there are a few fixtures on the house that just drive me nuts because they don't match or they're too intense. Or more often than not, you see these coach lights in the front door that you can see here that are often blaring and very intense. Okay, so a couple things to remember with this concept. Number one, please put a dimmer switch on those lights, just because you do want to drop the intensity down significantly. Many contractors will actually take the lamps out of these coach lights and put in a very low intensity one, so they don't have to worry about the homeowner increasing or lowering the intensity. So you do have to be mindful of, that will help the lights match a little bit better with the rest of the landscape lighting that you as a contractor have put in. But you also want to be mindful that these lights are very close to the surface. And so because they're very close to the surface, they do a wall grazing effect. And so you do want to make sure that the lights aren't too hot. And you do want to make sure that you are watching what style of light you're putting in. Okay, so a great example would be this, or actually this is a bad example of just being mindful of the fact that, hey, the effect coming out of this light really wasn't what I expected it to be. You've got some weird lines, you've got some weird effects that are being created by this, and I'm not happy with that. So always be aware of the type of fixture you're using when you're doing these surface mounted opportunities, because it can go wrong. So you do need to work with existing wall sconces. Oftentimes, it is better just to take them off the wall altogether and replace them with a fixture that flows better with the rest of the lighting around the property. And you can often do that whether it's low voltage or line voltage. It's very common to use these little matchbox style mini transformers that'll step down the power of these where the coach lights were from 120 down to 12 volts for North American voltages there. But there's always plenty of wall plates that fit over classic junction boxes to make the design better. But remember, we want you to, more than our mantra today is think differently, whether it's downlighting, whether it's replacing existing fixtures and making it work consistently throughout the entire project. So I do want to just stop really quick just to see if there are any questions. I don't have two screens, so I can't see if any questions are popping out. But Scott, do we have any questions, or are we good to go to keep moving here?
Yes. Mark Thomas wanted to know what is the approximate additional monthly energy cost on the KC house lighting. I know that. Yeah. So I mean, the lamps in there are probably 4-watt lamps or so. So when we talk about the additional cost, the intensity is incredibly low. So if we talk about a monthly addition, I would probably say probably $30 to $50 a year, right? It's not significant at all. And if you ask a homeowner, can I add safety lighting around my property? Can I add the we'll call it beautification to my property as well? It's my most expensive investment is my house and my property. I want that to look fantastic. I want to feel safe and comfortable there. I want to be proud of that. And so for a few extra dollars, we're talking $30 a year. Most homeowners are more than willing to cover that for sure. Cool. Nice answer. I mean, definitely it's going to make your house stand out more. And for $30 a year, I mean, you can't go wrong with, that definitely. I mean, it definitely brightens up everything in the house. I mean, absolutely awesome. And remember, I mean, we can probably go back to it really quickly just for discussion purposes, right? Yeah. But we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 lights here, right? So this is fairly easy to do. They're low wattage and low intensity lamps, and it can make the biggest impact for any home. Okay, nice. That's all we got question-wise so far. So all right, perfect. So I'm going to keep on going because I know we're getting close to the end here. So again, thinking differently. If a contractor said, okay, I finished lighting your house here, I'm all done. Most homeowners will go, wow, this is great, right? And they'll say great because the house is lit. They can see it everybody can see it in the neighborhood. They can see it from the street. They feel very safe coming up to the front door because you have a lot of light offering residual light on the ground to make it even more safe. And they'll go, fantastic, we love our lighting so much. Hands down, everyone will do that. But there's one important thing that they forgot, and that is upstairs. And so when we do this comparison of, downstairs only or getting up on the roof, you can see the impact that happens when we go back and forth between what it really means to add the second story. And so doing the second story is not difficult at all. There's a light right here in each corner to do this section, and there's a light on each corner to do this section right here. And it made the most significant impact on this property, and you didn't even know it. And most homeowners wouldn't know it at all. And so I want you to remember to think up and don't forget about the second story and by moving upstairs. So gutters are a very easy place to hide fixtures and wires. So their gutter mounts are very easy and common to use. I do say from this perspective, watch your scallops. And I say scallops because, and I can say on this house because I helped design, this is just a temporary design for photography, but you can see the light, and you can see the light is actually, instead of lighting just the wall here, it's actually lighting, you can see the little scallops here on the roof line. And so what I would highly recommend is getting those fixtures up a little bit, putting it on a 4 to 6 inch riser just to get the light off of the roof and get it to focus on the actual horizontal or vertical surfaces of the house. Also, just a quick reminder, I totally recommend painting after any type of installation when you are doing any work up, we'll call it upstairs. So it looks so much better to just paint over the wires rather than having black or white wire on the backside of the fascia boards. Go ahead and just give it a quick once over from a paint standpoint, and it'll look a lot cleaner. So
Always recommend that. And as I had mentioned, get some risers and move those lights up a little bit higher so that you do not have light up on the roof line itself. Okay. So another piece we're going to talk about is really the most popular question we get when we talk about lighting trees is how many fixtures per tree? And the answer is always at least 2. And I say at least 2 because when you have a single light actually creates a very, from a single source, it creates a very static look, right? You can see from the image on the right, you have one light, you've got one tree, and that tree tends to look a little bit flat. And so by adding multiple fixtures, you throw in this concept of cross lighting. And with cross lighting, you add depth, you add dimension. And with that ability also, you can add more degrees of visibility. So if you've got if you've got a tree in the back of the property where no one's ever going to go behind it, well, you could do one. I would recommend 2 fixtures for sure. But anytime that you have the ability for people to be on one side or the other side of a tree, highly recommend getting that 2 and probably that 3rd fixture as well for multiple viewing areas and angles. Now, we also have to remember that these multiple viewing angles don't have to be always in front of the house at the street level. They're often on the back side of the tree because of in the house. And so that concept of making sure that you are lighting for a viewing angle inside of the house is really very important, because how often whether you have alleyways or not in your area, how often do we drive home? It's already late at night. We go straight to the garage. We turn off the car. The garage door closes. We never really we sometimes don't see the light that is there. But when you're walking around inside the house and you can see the landscape lighting lit from inside the house, looking out the window, it is a fantastic feeling for the homeowner. So always remember that there is a viewing angle inside the house. Now, when we talk about the number of fixtures again, so we often start with at least 2 is the key answer. Now, remember, when we're lighting trees, the most beautiful part of a tree is not the leaves, it's the branching structure and the trunk. And so that's what you're lighting first. And so all lights should be anywhere from 1 to 3 feet away from the tree to make sure you're highlighting that primary trunk and inner branching structures. And that's also why pruning trees is so necessary, especially when you have outdoor lighting. Now, as that tree grows, we don't want the lights just to keep moving outward with the growth of the tree. You actually want to add a second set of lights to be able to highlight more of the tree, especially when they have larger canopies. So in that case, when you have these, you can see the 2 ground mounted or stake mounted uplights here. If this happens to be past the trees, the ring around and into the turf, really recommend making these in grade or at grade fixtures so that lawn mowers and other lawn care products can go over them. We do not want to be having to weed whack around fixtures or anything like that. It gets to be a mess and a pain for everybody. So remember, the answer in terms of number of fixtures is always at least 2, and branch outward with a second set rather than move the fixtures out. Okay. Now, also the position of the lights is also very important as well. So when we talk about uplighting, you have really 3 different categories. So you can do the classic uplight, which is on number 1. That's where you take the fixture about 1 to 2 feet away from the statue and light it up. If I want to move it closer to the statue, we're talking anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. We would call that grazing, and you'll see more texture associated with grazing. Or you can take that light source and actually put it behind the fixture or behind the statue and create that silhouetting effect. And also with silhouetting, you are also grazing the wall itself, which is why we can see quite a bit of that texture. So from an uplight standpoint, we can do directionals, which have a beam angle, we call it, anywhere from 20 to 60 degrees. Or you can do more of a wall wash effect as well. And that wall wash effect will give you, rather than a more narrow focus on the tree, it'll allow you to just blow up the entire scene with light with 100 to 120 degrees of light for that beam angle. So keep in mind that when you're blowing it up with light goes everywhere. In the example over here, light goes exactly where we want it to go, which is the tree and that branching structure, which we were talking about earlier. with a wall wash concept, light goes not only with the tree, the branching structure, but it goes to the wall, it goes to the house and everywhere else. And so with large canopies, right, wall washes do work great if they're a little bit farther away from the house. But just keep in mind that there are various ways to light, and every light should have a purpose more than anything else. So my last piece, I know we're getting close to the end of it here, is just accessorizing in general. So on the picture on the left, a typical contractor would say, hey, we got a very mature landscape here. I don't want to go digging around. Let's just not light this section. But an experienced contractor would say, well, hey, great. Well, this is a great area to light. I love the side of the house. It's some awesome landscape. Let's put it on a riser. And I think in this case, it was about a 24-inch riser to get the fixtures up and above the landscape so that we can focus on lighting the architecture of the house. And for my closing point more than anything else is we often think to ourselves as, okay, this is landscape lighting. Great, landscape lighting. But I think what you've seen for most of my presentation today is what we call architectural lighting. And so remember, if we're not just talking about landscape, we're not just talking about architectural, we're talking about outdoor lighting in general. And so as you remember that on this property, it might have cost, let's say, $30,000 to $50,000 to get the landscaping done, but they probably paid, $600,000, $800,000, depending on where this location is, for the house. So remember, the house is the most valuable property, and the house is what most homeowners actually really want to see. So if you err on the side of putting lights on the house, the landscape side will come. So and just remember here, you got a couple options here. Always go upstairs and focus on that architecture when you go from the landscape option to the architectural option. And you can see the drastic difference that you can provide for the homeowner. So with that, that's Scott, that's my spiel here.
Okay.
Again, my name is Ryan Williams with FXLuminaire, which is one of the brands of Hunter Industries. And I'm happy to answer any questions, both now and later. But you've got my contact information for sure.
Thank you, Ryan. I got one question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
I know that, definitely I see a lot of guys, doing the landscape and stuff, and definitely doing the house makes it stand out more. And I'm starting to see a lot more of that. Now, let's say you started out with, they just wanted to start out with the landscape and then wanted to go out to the house. Would you recommend starting with a higher transformer right off the bat, or would you start with a lower transformer and just up the transformer as you go?
Honestly, it's always better to start with the higher wattage transformer for sure. But the question really for the homeowner is, and for the contractor, you should really focus on making sure that wire is just put everywhere. Okay. So it's the transformer. Let's be honest, it's a couple $100, right? And depending on control options and other things, but in general, that's not the expensive part. The expensive part is laying down the wire. It's trenching. It's getting the wire up on the back side of the gutters and on the other side of the fascia board. So really, when we talk about a phased implementation for a homeowner, your number one opportunity should really just be to make sure that you're getting all the wire everywhere on the first round, so that it's planned and ready to go for the second and third phases.
Okay. Thank you. I want to thank you for your time, Ryan. Like he said, his information's right up there. If you guys are watching this, come back, rewind it, get his information if you have any more questions for him. I don't see any other questions from everybody that's on here today, but I want to thank you, Ryan, for taking your time, providing us all your great knowledge. And, if you guys are looking for some great, lighting equipment, check out the FXLuminaire series from Hunter. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And, check us out on echomeansbusiness.com. Check us out on our, Instagram. Check out Hunter, their FXLuminaire. If you guys, there's plenty of great tips on our website from great lawn and landscape people. So go ahead and check it out. You can even contact me. You can contact anybody from this show. So I want to thank everybody and have a great day. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
You guys have a good day.